Hello chaps, here we are in Brighton, it's Troy Francis, and I wanted to talk about the fact that human beings are essentially programmed to get bored with one another. Sadly, it's the case. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you haven't, then listen up, and if you have, you might identify with what I am going to say. You see, the key difficulty with monogamy really, and long-term, particularly long-term monogamous relationships, less so short-term, but certainly long-term monogamous relationships, is that both genders ultimately get a bit bored with one another. You know, this is the thing, and it's not nice to say it, it's not pretty, it's not a pleasant thing to contemplate, but unfortunately it's true. And that means that holding a long-term relationship together is very difficult, and it's increasingly difficult in the modern world because there aren't really any societal constraints anymore. I mean, divorce obviously is sort of de rigueur these days. There's no real shaming in terms of people breaking out of relationships, and I'm not saying there should be, to be honest. I'm not sort of somebody who's like wants to hark back to, you know, the 1850s or the 1750s or whatever these people, you know, want to do. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's the reality of the situation, and so therefore the sort of very human desire for variety kicks into play, and you know, people just get a bit bored with one another. I mean, if you think about the glue that holds the relationship together, right? What is it really? Well, it's the spark. It's the sexual spark between the couple that really holds things together, and that lasts in a strong way for a number of years. I mean, if you're with somebody and you guys really gel, you know, you've just got that good vibe with that person, you guys really sort of connect on that level, then that's going to last, you know, a few years, maybe, you know, between a year and maybe up to like say 2 or 3 years at the most. But after that, it just naturally begins to recede. You know, why is that? Well, what is the biological purpose of us getting together in the first place? Of course, it is to bring children into the world. Okay, how long does it take to, have a kid and then raise that kid to, you know, an age where, you know, not that it's necessarily self-sufficient, but an age where it's sort of, it's out of the very most vulnerable aspects of infancy. Well, probably about 3 years, right? 2 to 3 years. So, you know, it's not really surprising that after that period, the sort of, that glue, you know, that really potent sort of attraction that bonds the two people together starts to recede a little bit. Now, in its place, you get, I suppose, what we call love, right? You get something else which is more akin to friendship, obviously with a great fondness in many cases, and you know, maybe respect and a great liking for one another and everything else. But that sort of potent, sharp kind of sexual energy between the two people inevitably starts to recede, and then people will do different things to try to keep it going. You know, they'll go to swingers clubs, or they'll go to Ann Summers and, you know, buy funny outfits and things, or they'll, you know, whatever other sort of cliched things that people are doing in order to try to inject the novelty back into the relationship, or they just end up having affairs, or, you know, sadly they end up splitting up, and that is the thing, right? And the problem, the challenge that you have, is that even if you, as 50% of the partnership, even if you are completely and fully on board with the notion of, you know, you guys, right, we're going to be monogamous, we're together, this is it, you know, I'm in this for the long run, That's absolutely fine, and you could be completely on board with that. But you've also got to hope that she is as well. Now, she may say that she is, of course. I mean, everybody sort of says that at the beginning, don't they? But you've got to hope deep down that that's actually true, and that she's actually gonna, hold to that through thick or through thin. And of course, there will be ups and downs, right? I mean, naturally in life, there's going to be peaks and troughs. There's going to be good times, there's going to be bad. Remember the marriage vows: in sickness and in health, okay? And but as I say, the issue that we have these days is that there's just less sort of social glue holding people to those. Well, if you're actually married, holding people to the marriage vows. But if you're not married, holding people to that notion. What we tend to do these days, and again, I'm not singling out women or anything. I think women and men do this to some extent. Is if things get tough, is to just bail on the relationship because why not, right? Is easier just to start something else with somebody else and sort of not to worry about the damage that's been done. So this desire for novelty in human beings is both a testament to our consistent and unswerving vitality, if you like. Really, it's our lifeblood. It's and when you stop craving variety, in a sense, maybe you might as well just lay down and go to sleep in a darkened room, because you've lost that sort of essence for life in a way. But it also represents our downfall in another sense. And as I keep saying, I keep coming back to the same thing. The challenge that we all have is we both want two things at the same time. We both simultaneously want security with a partner. We want to meet that special person, and we want to feel that sense of they're there for me, she's my ride or die, she's my bae, she's in my corner, all that stuff. We want that. But we also go out on a Friday night and have a look around and think, that lady over there in the red dress, she looks kind of cute. I wouldn't mind getting to know her as well. And women feel the same. I mean, whether they feel the same to the same degree is, of course, a heated debate. And it was a heated debate I was actually privy to the other day when I was on when I was on a podcast with Jay Waller and Sterling Cooper and Pearl of the channel Just Pearly Things, and there were some other people there as well, and we were talking about this very issue. Do women have this same craving for variety as men do? And the overarching feeling generally is that no, they don't. Although I have to say there were some women in the room who said that they do. The women do have the same desire for variety. So I suppose the jury's out on that. I think the truth is that men do have a higher sex drive than women. That much is true. But I think women are still swayed. I mean, all of the women there basically said, yeah, I mean, she's going to look around. She's going to be aware of other guys. She's going to feel desire for other guys. She may not necessarily act on that, but she's going to feel it, right? So this kind of craving for variety is inherent, I think, in both of us. And unchecked, it just makes it very, very difficult to hold anything together over the long term. Now, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, yeah, fine, that can be great. That can be a lot of fun. But when you're really, and the blogger Caleb Jones used to talk about that, when you're like, you're at 10 years, you're at 15 years, you're at 20 years, that's when you're really in the hard yards of monogamy. That's when you're really doing the hard time in terms of monogamy. And sadly, we see that a lot of relationships don't make it, and people do end up splitting up or divorcing, or affairs happen and all this kind of thing. So So what does it all mean? Well, I think we've just got to be realistic about this, and I mean, there's going to be people who look at the video and they're going to say, oh no, that's cynical, it's not like that, and then you always get the people who say, well, I've been married for 25 years and it's been great and we're still madly in love and we have sex every 2 hours and and all that kind of thing. And look, I mean, I'm sure that's true. Of course, everyone's experience is different. There are people for whom all of this works out very well, and that's great for them. But the truth is, I think that most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, there is that dual desire for both, the security side of things and the variety side of things, and it's something that's very, very hard to resolve. I think particularly for guys. So you've got to really think, okay, so what do I actually want? And don't forget about it, but people will always bag on about divorce laws, and people talk about family courts and all this kind of stuff in the comments, and yeah, all of that stuff is you should get clued up on for sure. The sort of the legal side of this, the kind of the sort of more political level side of this stuff, but just on a purely emotional level, and just purely on the level of how do I actually want to live my life, you've got to kind of think, well, what do I really want? Do I want to get into something long term when I know myself deep in my heart that actually I kind of want a bit more freedom than that. I kind of want a bit more autonomy than that. And on top of that, you've got to kind of think, well, I'm also entering into this thing with somebody, and she may get fed up with me in a few years, or in 10 years or whatever. All right, so there's no guarantees, because human nature just doesn't allow for them, and people often will put in comments, oh, well, just get married and, or just settle down and then, it'll all be fine kind of thing, as if settling down is an end game. But of course, I made another video where I talk about the fact that settling down is not an end game. It's a step in the road. Some people end up and they're together forever and it's sort of the destination, but often for many, sadly, it isn't. So yeah, you need to have a think, okay, so what do I actually want in life? What do I want my life to look like? Do I want to attempt this thing that is really, I'm not saying unnatural, but it is very difficult. I don't think anyone can deny that it is increasingly hard for people to engage in long-term monogamous relationships. Or maybe you might think, well, look, actually, I want some autonomy, I want some freedom, I do want to have love and affection in my life for sure, but I want to have it on my own terms. And I also want to enjoy some variety while I'm alive on this planet, the few short decades that I've got here before, the curtains close and it all goes dark. So if that is you, then maybe you want to think about having a slightly different kind of lifestyle. You might want to think about having a more nomadic lifestyle. You might want to think about traveling and making your dating life or your relationship life a bit more international. You might want to bring a nomadic element into things. And if you do, then that's great. And it's the good thing about being alive today is that it's absolutely possible to do that. We're set up to do that in a way that we just never have been before in the whole of human history. So if you want to find out more about that, then obviously subscribe to this channel, give the video a like, drop me a comment underneath, and the other thing to do as well is to get on my free email list. So I've got an email newsletter, you'll see the link to that below. So get on that, and obviously I'll be sending out more details on the various things we got coming up. So yeah, thanks for watching. Keen to hear your thoughts on this one, so do put your comments in the comments box below, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.